Hello. Let's talk about what energy feels like in different parts of the body. Now, your primary energy center, and this might surprise you, is actually here. This is your connection to Source. This is your connection to God. It's right here. And if you put your hand here, you might actually feel something that feels different than if you were to put your hand here, or here, or here. Do you feel that? There's some kind of field, some kind of ray that connects you to the higher realms. It's right here. And sometimes when you're especially deep in meditation or prayer, you can feel that tingling right here because it's active. And then there's the so-called crown chakra, which is right here, which some religions cover because it's so precious, which you cover when you're wearing a hat. And it's connected to the pineal gland. That's what the science calls it, but the ancients called it the crown. And when kings and queens put on a crown, they do so to amplify the energy from here. And in most systems, this is the highest point. But I know there's an even higher point right here. So put your hand right here and see if you can caress that a little bit. Massage it a bit, clockwise. And that's a good feeling, is it not? See if you can breathe into that. Breathe into your crown chakra. That is, on the in-breath, you imagine breathing through here. Or let's take it up one notch higher and breathe through here. In fact, let's take it up one notch higher. Imagine a golden ray coming from way, way above, right through here, and then through here, and into your whole body, through your whole body, piercing you. Breathe with that for a moment. And even if you're completely dull, you should still feel something when you do that. It slightly activates the area. Let's do it a little more. Slow, deep breath in and a slow breath out. Putting attention here as you do so. The energy comes down here and through here. And then this is the so-called third eye chakra. This is your psychic center. It's where psychic perception comes from, and it's why some people say if you're too focused on developing your psychic, it's at the expense of the higher stuff. Because this activates with love and appreciation and compassion. And this activates with surrender to Source. And this is only psychic, and psychic is certainly higher than other ones, but it's still just psychic. It is also called the third eye, and when it's active, you usually feel that as a neutral or clear feeling. You have a clear view of things. Cool, calm and collected, icy. It's usually not a warm feeling. Psychic ability is related to clarity of mind. You see things, you just know them. And when it's closed or disrupted, it usually manifests as a pressure here, maybe even a headache. And then here, is the throat chakra. The science calls it the thyroid gland, a very important gland. Let's touch it with me. When truth is spoken from the throat, then your voice is strong, resonant, and doubt-free. And you can easily detect truth and falsehood by listening to the voice. That's why if you want to get to know someone, it's good to talk to them on the phone for a while and not just see them, because looks can be deceiving. Okay, but the voice rarely lies. And as you know, when truth was suppressed for a while, hidden, covered up, and is then finally allowed to come out, you usually choke up. We call it choking up. And that's when we feel sad. And that feeling of sadness is a release in the throat chakra. And then put your hands here to the thymus gland, as the science calls it. And let's knock it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Let's do it again. Say ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Just to activate it a little bit. When the heart is open, this is associated with the heart, even though the physical heart may be a bit further down. This is the heart chakra. And when it's open, it feels like warmth, like compassion flowing from you to others. And that's a very healing and positive feeling, especially when it's spontaneous, because when it's spontaneous, guess where it comes from? It comes through here, from source to the person. So it's source using you as a channel to send healing energy, to send compassion to the person who needs it. Let's rub it clockwise. And as you know, when it has been hurt, it's experienced as a broken heart. And you usually feel the broken heart, not here, but rather here, because it pulsates and radiates sadness. We call it sadness, but it's really just energy radiating, trying to alarm you to something. And then let's touch the solar plexus. The science calls it the pancreas. And when it's open, it feels like a radiance. It can also feel like butterflies. We say, I have butterflies in the stomach, but it's actually not in the stomach. It's in the solar plexus. And it's called solar because it's like a little sun. Each of these energy centers is like its own brain, in a way. And it's too bad that people limit the so-called brain to something here inside the head. That's not really what's going on. For example, the solar plexus is much, much smarter than the mere brain. Let's rub it clockwise. When somebody's intruding or imposing on you, you feel it as fear here, a sense of fear. Fear is often felt here because it's related to powerlessness, whereas power means this part, your center is strong. And then put your hand between the belly button and the genitals, lower stomach. That's also an energy center, though it's often not mentioned in the chakra system. Sometimes it's called the root chakra, but the root chakra is also here in the back at the base of the spine, which is an energy center. And that base goes up all the way to to this part of the brain here, which is also an energy center. These are your most important points, the ones I've pointed out in this video. Okay, put your hand there. When a samurai commits suicide, he stabs the sword directly into his center because that's the quickest death. And it proves that it's one of your main centers. The adrenaline rush, it comes from the root chakra and is related to survival. So when you do something daring or extremely courageous, you often feel it as an adrenaline rush, which comes from here. And then when the genitals are turned on, you say, I'm turned on. But the genitals are also an energy center, and I'm not going to ask you to touch them now because you know enough about that energy center. Most people are very familiar with this energy center, but it would be great if people were also familiar with the other ones instead of being completely sex-centered, as if the genitals were the only thing that defined you and the only thing you can feel energy with. And that's just one of the problems in this world. People say, I feel the energy when they have an orgasm, and that's just about it. What about the rest of the time? What about the rest of the energy centers? Okay, there's more to life than just that. And that is wonderful. I have nothing against it. It's beautiful, but there's more. You can experience arousal in other centers as well. You can experience an arousal here, which is completely different than the arousal down there. And the higher your consciousness goes, the more you become interested in the arousal of the other centers. Now, I've made a little chart that summarizes all of this. Here it is. I recommend you familiarize yourself with these centers and how they feel when they are turned on and when they're turned off. It's your job to find out more, even though there's so much more to say about it. For example, when a mother kisses a child on the head, it means she wants the highest for her child. She's kissing the crown chakra, thereby activating it. She goes, mwah, and it activates. And that's beautiful. And yes, of course, the ideal state is to have several energy centers active at the same time. For example, this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, so that you feel the tingling everywhere. But that is extremely rare. It's extremely rare that someone has 2 active energy centers at the same time, even rarer to have 3. And that's because we're filled with misinformation, disinformation, mental blocks, toxins, and so forth. So I don't know anybody who activates more than 1 at a time, but it is possible, and I'm telling you here. I enjoy walking around with more than 1 energy center activated.